Kia ora koutou. Welcome to Mahi Matters, New Zealand's market update. Today we're looking at the ageing workforce. Too old to hire or too young to retire? Are older workers being forced out of the workforce, or are they opting out? So this week we're joined by Ian Fraser, Director and Founder of at Seniors at Work, to unpack the realities facing New Zealand's ageing workforce. Also on today's show, we break down the latest unemployment rate. We'll explore our latest job opportunities across New Zealand, and we'll also reveal our new social media poll around pay transparency, obviously a very hot topic at the moment. So let's go through to start the show. So last week, a frog recruitment survey revealed that over 89% of Kiwis believed that their employers would be hesitant to hire people aged over the age of 65. So with New Zealand's population steadily aging and the cost of living continuing to climb, more Kiwis are working well past traditional retirement age. Yet despite this reality, age bias in hiring remains a significant concern. Are New Zealand's ageing workers facing a future with no place to land, deemed too old for new roles and too young to step away? To discuss this further, we're joined today by Ian Fraser, Director and Founder at Seniors at Work. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you very much.
Now, first off, for those of us who may not have heard of Seniors at Work, could you tell us a little bit more about the organisation?
Sure, and thank you for the opportunity. So I'll wind back the clock about 15 years. I was working as the managing director of a smallish company, but we had most of the major contracts in our field, including the likes of New Zealand Rugby Union. And we got subjected to, unfortunately, what you describe as a commercial fraud with regard to tickets. It cost us $1.5 million to replace those tickets, and we had taken advice from our insurance broker. But sure enough, the insurance company didn't pay out. The ticket provider declared himself bankrupt. So after about a year, we had to shut our doors, and I was in the situation where I had to look for work again. I was in my late 50s at that stage. I was pretty optimistic, I'll be honest. I had worked almost entirely in management, including 3 startups. But the long and the short is I applied for over 75 jobs and got just 3 interviews. And that was over a period of time, and luckily I had a little bit of part-time work. But then I decided that there should be a platform to assist more mature job seekers in a similar situation and age bracket to me. So I set up Seniors at Work. I'm now 73. I had no HR or recruiting experience or background. I sourced some software and I invited some AUT tech students to build a website for me, which they did. And Seniors at Work is now coming up 6 years old in July. So we are a job platform which assists Kiwi job seekers in their 50s, and I stress 50s and over, in finding work opportunities. I started at 60 plus, but I had so many people contact me in their 50s and say, can I apply for such and such a job? And I'm sure the answer was yes. So I came down from 60 to 55 and then to 50, but I'm very comfortable at 50. That's the legal definition of seniors, people over 50, by the way, and some people may not realize that. So we advocate strongly for Kiwi job seekers in their 50s and over, including in the media. We're fortunate to have 8 or 10 employers who list with us on a regular basis, and most of them have a 12-month subscription. So there's a wee intro for you.
Fantastic. And what a great story. And even in that, taking a look at your situation at the time and deciding that this isn't right, this shouldn't be this hard, and actually going out there and doing something, it's kind of proof in the pudding that, despite or perhaps enhanced by your age and experience, you've gone, well, I don't really know much about this, but I'm going to give it a crack. I'm going to go out there, but also maybe I can get some students who might be able to help me with the technical aspects. So great way to showcase, the capabilities and how your experience can can go into new areas.
No,
Now, obviously, it's a really difficult job market overall, and I'm sure particularly for older workers. Why do you think they're struggling to secure new roles in today's job market? And I guess what are some of the key challenges that they're facing?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that older job seekers have always found it more challenging and difficult than younger ones, and that's just historical fact, I think. I mean, those aged 50 and over, they face some pretty unique circumstances and complex challenges in finding and staying in work, and it can take longer for an older person to return to work. Certainly now with the unemployment rate, which you mentioned, over 5%, it makes it even more difficult. The challenging economic times over the past 2 or so years hasn't done older job seekers any favors at all. It's simply increased the challenge. Employers are recruiting less, and older job seekers are finding it even more difficult. For a small niche platform such as Seniors at Work, it's likewise, to be honest, been challenging, as employers tell us that firstly, they aren't recruiting as much, and if they are able to find the talent they are seeking, either through their own careers board or the likes of the big job platforms and LinkedIn. I think there remains an element of bias and discrimination, even though in my view, that is not as prevalent as it was even 5, 10, 15 years ago. And my view is based anecdotally on emails, phone calls, and Facebook messages that I received from older job seekers highlighting the challenges that they've faced. I think, and I've got to be careful what I say now, but some recruiters, I believe, still look more positively and favorably at applications and CVs from younger applicants, and arguably don't consider some applications from older applicants with the same diligence and time. So at Seniors at Work, my job is to try and encourage employers to consider listing on our job platform employers who proactively want to welcome and encourage people in that age bracket to look at the listings that they have and to consider working for them. And the flip side is that our job seekers are very grateful to those employers, and they don't have to worry about the likes of bias and ageism and discrimination if they get a job with one of those employers.
Okay, fantastic. Now, you mentioned some of the, it's very encouraging that you think that some of perhaps the stereotypes or challenges are actually reducing or removing some of that unconscious bias. But what are some of the common misconceptions that employers might have of hiring as senior into their workplace? And I'm going to add another one in there just to keep it on the positive. What do you think are sometimes the stereotypes can be used in a positive ways as well? What are the advantages of hiring a senior?
Sure, there's two parts to that question, isn't there? So let me rattle through some of what I consider mostly to be myths, and then we can talk about some of the positive go-forward action points. They're too old. They're past their use-by date. We have a preference for younger, more adaptable people, age discrimination. They're not tech-savvy. They've got skill gaps, and that is partly correct, I acknowledge, but there are fixes. And let's also acknowledge that most baby boomers have experienced huge technology changes in the last 50, 60 years, and some are absolute wizards. They are less productive. Nonsense. They mostly cost more to hire. In most cases, I don't believe that's the case. There are questions about energy and fitness. Bollocks, I say. They require more sick days. I believe it's been proven that that's well and truly not the case. They're grumpy. Yes, there might be the odd grumpy old person, but that is a way, way, way overquoted generalization. On the flip side, an employer can be more flexible and allow a mature person to transition into part-time or casual work, thus retaining their skills and their experience. if they value that worker, they could and should invest in retraining as required. And to be fair, older workers should embrace that opportunity if they are offered it. So it's a two-edged sword. I was asked by the Office for Seniors and MSD to assist them in setting up a group called Age-Friendly Employers Network, which is currently a small group which consists of positive employers, MSD, the Office for Seniors, and some government and industry people. I'm just going to quote from here. Its purpose is to focus on our aging workforce and ensure that there is awareness and understanding about this issue. We recognize that older workers play a critical role in meeting labour market challenges and bring a range of benefits to the workplace. Whether we like it or not, the aging workforce is here to stay. One of the first of our initiatives is to create what we are calling, or likely to call, an age-friendly employers pledge. And again, I'll quickly quote from our draft document. Age-friendly employers believe that workers of all ages add value to organizations. Diverse workforces are strong and resilient. Older workers have skills and competencies that are essential for all workplaces. Workplaces serve as an important role in individual and community well-being. As an age-friendly employer, we commit to learning and enhancing our business through this pledge, specifically identify age in each of our equality, diversity, and inclusion policies, take action to improve the recruitment, retention, and development of workers aged over 50 by creating an age-friendly culture, hiring age positively, exploring flexible working where possible, encouraging career development at all ages, supporting discussions about aging, and finally, ensuring everyone has the well-being support they need. So I'm hoping that we can launch this pledge in the coming months and grow the numbers with some more positive, caring employers. So there's two parts to your very good question.
Fantastic. And I'm sure there's lots of employers or people thinking about their own companies and going, well, that all sounds great. That sounds like us. How do we get involved? So with the launch coming through, what's the best way if they're interested in becoming in or being recognised as an age-friendly employer?
Yeah, that will come out in time when they do launch. If they want to be part of the group, we welcome new employers who have got a positive mindset. So if they get in touch with me, I can put them onto the Office for Seniors, and we would very much welcome their presence and their contribution and their input.
Fantastic. And I'm sure the links to Ian's details and Seniors at Work will be in the stream there. Now, looking at, I think there's a bit of a trend for people to continue working after retirement age. And I'm sure that the cost of living crisis is having some impact on that. But do you think that's the main factor, or is it because people want to work for longer?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, Kiwis are living longer, they're healthier, they're fitter, and they're able to work longer if they want to or need to, way past the old retirement age of 65. So being healthier and living longer is one key factor. It enables them to work if they have to or want to. The other is exactly what you were suggesting, is certainly the need to bring in dollars in, and in most cases, or in many cases, to continue to pay mortgages. That would easily be the biggest driver from what I'm told. Unfortunately, many in this age bracket didn't save like we are encouraged to save now, with the likes of KiwiSaver being such an important tool. So they are caught short. Other reasons include keeping their minds positive and active, enjoying or missing the camaraderie in a workplace. And to conclude, as I often get asked about whether people 65 and over, which is part of your question, are still working and need to work and why, some basic, very simple but graphic stats. And this is looking at the age bracket 64 to 69, and a comparison between 2000 and 2024. The numbers have increased from around 18% up to around 44% of this group still working. So 44% of the 64 to 69 demographic are still working, up from 18% of that demographic in 2000. Around 130,000 people from this demographic are working, up from about 15,000 in 2000. There's a 500% increase in the number of people 65 to 69 who are employed. So short answer to your very good question is yes, a lot more people in that age bracket are working for whatever reason, but financial driver is probably the biggest one.
Yeah, that's a massive shift there. And I know from a lot of the candidates we'll get through here at Frog Recruitment, often it is by choice. So, you know, we'll be going through the career history. What was your reason for leaving here? I retired, I went off and did a few things, and then pretty soon I was dead bored and decided retirement's not quite for me, so I need to get back into doing something. So it is great when it is a question of choice, but definitely that increase, as you say, is going to be mainly due to those financial drivers as well. Now, in a recent interview with RNZ, you stated that around 65% of the people on your books were women. Do you think that there's a reason that more women are looking for work this year, past that retirement age or in the senior bracket?
You ask some interesting questions, don't you? The short answer is I don't know why. I think that maybe women are probably more organized and think and plan ahead better than men. I've got to be careful what I say, but I am a man. As our Facebook page brings in a lot of our registered job seekers, I think that would be a very big contributing factor, as our audience is higher weighted with women than men. And just to put that in perspective, currently there have been 240,000 visits to our Facebook page this past month, which is a huge number. And we use our Facebook page to highlight and promote new listings and the employers that list on our site. So you've got a lot of women who are going to our Facebook page, and that may explain or partly explain the reference.
I think definitely in what you were saying earlier, and it kind of precursors something that's going to come up later in the show as well, is again those financial drivers. In particular, you talked about KiwiSaver, and you know, in the scheme of things, it's been a relatively new scheme and hasn't really changed too much. So watch the space. There may be some changes coming through, but women typically will have a much reduced capacity to save via those schemes due to time out of the workplace and of course being paid at lower levels as well. So, you know, if the financial drivers are there, that's going to be, I would say, another reason that more women have that need to continue working past retirement age. Let's end on a positive. So what kind of advice do you have for those over 50 when applying for a job, or kind of putting them in, putting their best foot forward?
Yeah, we try and offer advice. I'm not a professional like you, for example, are. But a key thing I say to job seekers in that demographic, they need to be patient, resilient, and well prepared before they start applying. They can't just think that applying for a job is like it used to be 15, 20 years ago. They need to give themselves the best possible chance of success. To me, it's basic 101. It's not rocket science. Their CV has to be up to date, has to be well formatted with modern language without too much work history, you know, the last 10 to 12 years max. And I know that I got caught out badly that way when I had submitted CVs and job applications, because I used to be quite proud of work I did in the late 1970s. But I was told very quickly, no, we don't want to see that sort of stuff. So they've got to be smart about that. Some older job seekers really struggled with their CVs, and they might have a CV which is 20 plus years old, and they don't understand templates, because there are a lot of templates out there which will help someone with a CV, or they can't afford to pay $65 or $75 or whatever professionals charge to do a CV. And if they're really struggling, I get them to send me their CV, and I go to ChatGPT and I just say modernize, update, format. Comes back in 5 seconds. I send it back to the person and say, look, for goodness sake, don't use this as your CV. Tweak it and make sure you're comfortable with it, personalize it. But you're a lot better off than what you sent me, which was like 20 or 30 years old with horrible font.
And 20 or 30 pages.
Yeah, exactly. Their covering letter needs to be specific to the role they're applying for. They can't just use a generic covering letter. They should do a bit of research on the company they want to work for. And ideally, they should prepare 1 or 2 questions about that organization that they can throw in if they get to that interview stage. And I suggested they write down a list of all their transferable skills, because you never know. It could come in handy during that interview situation. On our side, we've got 15 pages of assistance and advice and tips and tools and resource under the heading of Work Readiness Info Pack. And we have added more resource and tools earlier this year. So I think they should have enough to help them in their applications for a job.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and telling us more about Seniors at Work and the great work you're doing there. I don't know, it seems ripe for a collab or something. I feel like we could join forces and really help things out there.
Sure.
But at least we might be able to shine a bit more light on this and build up some momentum for you as well. Let's go through now to Mahi Media. So, steady unemployment, shaky foundations, and a pay equity backslide. So, there has been a lot happening in the world of work in Aotearoa lately. A couple of weeks ago, unemployment data landed with a slightly better than expected result, with the rate holding steady at 5.1%. Dig a little deeper though, and it paints a more nuanced picture. So while the headline number held, the number of people in full-time employment actually dropped while part-time work increased. So underutilisation remains a real issue, with both full-time and part-time kaimahi wanting more hours than they're getting. So the market's definitely still finding its feet, but maintaining stability could be a sign that we've reached the peak of unemployment, fingers crossed. That said, the current makeup of our workforce shows just how fragile the labour market still is. Now, of course, this week we can't ignore what's arguably been the most shocking development this month: the government's rushed changes to pay equity legislation passed under urgency. Now, don't worry, this segment doesn't come with a language warning, but it probably should have when I first reacted to the news. So the new changes tighten the criteria for advancing a pay equity claim, and as well as they have halted 33 active claims, requiring them to start again under the revised rules. So in other words, do not pass go and definitely do not collect $200. So unsurprisingly, this has triggered protests across the motu, with the changes seen as a massive step backwards and an insult to the generations of women who have fought hard for fair pay. The restricted criteria represent a gross oversimplification of a deeply complex issue and conveniently ignores decades of underpayment in female-dominated industries, the likes of nursing, aged care, social work, cleaning, and education. So the government may be celebrating the potential to save billions, but the real question is, at what cost? If you believe that there are better ways to find savings than by pushing back the clock on pay equity and trampling our wahine, now's the time to speak up so you can show your support by signing the Pledge for Pay Equity. I think the link will be included with the broadcast. Okay, so let's keep the conversation and the pressure on. Now let's take a look at some of the hot jobs this week. So this week's latest job opportunities are presented by the 2025 New Zealand Employment and Salary Trends Report, which is out now. So get the latest workforce trends, salary information, and attraction strategies to stay ahead of your market. Get in touch with the team at Frog Recruitment or go to our website to find out more. Okay, that is it for today's show. Packed full of some pretty interesting topics that are at the forefront of our mind at the moment. I'd love to hear your comments. Keep them clean, and we'll see you again next week.